To make simple devices like measuring your electricity usage, measuring your oil usage. We've put up plans to have quite a comprehensive weather station. And then as a bit of light relief, for our launch in Vegas 2 weeks ago, we developed a breathalyzer, which actually runs on our system. So you can blow at the breathalyzer, and your sobriety or lack of it comes up on your smartphone, which is really it's not particularly practical, but it's just a fun demonstration.
So you could have it to lock the front door, so you can't go and drive out, lock the garage.
Funny enough, other people have suggested that to us.
So once you've sort of you put the controllers on the devices like the radiator and things like that, I guess then where this really comes into its own is where you can apply the logic and the sort of the smart thinking behind it without having to do any coding.
That's right. And at the same time, as part of the setup, it actually builds your own web app on the fly. So once you've set it all up, you don't have to do anything else. It'll come up on your web app with a menu, so you can choose your resources. You might say, I want to have heating, lighting, weather station, just to take 3. And then once you set it up, then your menu will have heating, lighting, and weather station, and you can go straight to that. And you'll have switches, timers, a weather display. And then on top of that, you can add logging, which say you have a weather display and you're a sort of weather fanatic, you can decide how often to log temperature, wind speed, and all that sort of stuff. And you can also add alerts. So you might say, send me an email if my deep freeze temperature has gone above -5, or in your house, send me an email if you're away for 2 weeks holiday, send me an email if the temperature of my house has gone below -5, for example.
Mm. Yeah, I like that idea.
That's all by drop-down choices.
Yeah, so you don't really have to know how each device communicates back to the server or communicates to each other. You can just build that logic in the web app.
Yeah, so we've taken care of all the communications, and actually most importantly of the security, because security is a big issue. So what we've done is each device comes with a card with a QR code. So when you get it, you just get out your smartphone and you scan it, and that actually scan it brings up on your smartphone a login page. So that means that each device is registered with its unique identifier and a 16-bit key. And then after that, everything is done fully secured. And between our slaves and masters, we use AES encryption. So everything is really fully encrypted with 16-bit keys. You can't get in there.
And then could you, if you're someone who likes tinkering around and sort of doing your own stuff, could you then build on top of this with your own, maybe, something like a Raspberry Pi 2 running IoT Windows or something like that?
You certainly could, but actually the processing power inside our devices is, it's not insignificant. So
right.
There's an awful lot you can do. I mean, for example, building a breathalyzer on one of our slaves. I mean, that's quite a sophisticated thing to do, but that can be done using essentially choosing from pre-made functions. So you could connect it to the Raspberry Pi, but we'd say that there's not a lot that we think you'd need a Raspberry Pi to do on top of what our slaves and masters can already do. They each contain quite a powerful processor.
Yeah. So could you add your own sort of sensors and things to it, or build your own sensor sort of packs to it?
Absolutely. I think the slave has 23 input and output pins, and the master has about 20. So absolutely, that's the idea. That's what we'd like to encourage. And if you look at our forum, you'll see we've put up there circuit diagrams and instructions ranging from very simple things like measuring your electricity to more complicated things like, you know, a weather station which does wind speed, wind direction, temperature, humidity, and pressure.
And so you've launched. What's the Kickstarter campaign then? What's the options on that?
You can buy at the lowest end, you know, just one master. And of course, the master still has input and output pins, so you can do a lot with a single master. And then we just have a range of a master and 1 or 2 slaves. And I think we have a bigger one which has sort of 2 masters and 10 slaves.
Right. And so you just go on the Kickstarter, you contribute, you back it, and then that's your sort of what you get with the initial backing.
That's right.
Yeah. So what's the Kickstarter campaign? So what's your goal?
Our goal is relatively modest. I think we've put £15,000, and I think we've got 16 days to go, and we've got to just under £12,000. So you know, we should get there.
Right. So where can we go? So where do we go for information about this and to find out what we can do with it?
Well, if you go to the Kickstarter and go to Kickstarter and search for Wi-Fi thing, that has various links, and that will also link you back to our website, which is www. Security and everything else.
Excellent.
The actual code we haven't published yet because we haven't finished documenting it, but before we actually send any product to anybody, we'll actually have the code up on GitHub.
So you mentioned that the kind of idea and the concept behind it is that people can create an Internet of Things, an automated home without kind of programming experience. But would you say that kind of with the pins and connecting devices, that it's more aimed at kind of like an enthusiast, where they're going to be, you know, wiring things up?
Well, it's difficult because we do have, if you want to use it to zone control your heating and control electric appliances, you can do that without any soldering. Mm-hmm. But of course, that's relatively limited. So there is one application which can be used without any skills. But yes, we're kind of trying to democratize the Internet of Things so that people who, you know, they can change a plug and they maybe don't mind soldering 1 or 2 wires can kind of start, but without getting really bogged down in the really difficult bit of the Internet of Things. Because, you know, once you get into communications and the code and security, it rapidly becomes quite difficult to implement this stuff. So we're trying to take all that away, mm-hmm. To try and encourage people to say, actually, you know, it's not that hard. You know, we can wire up the cat flap, we can, you know, automate our dog feeders, we can water our greenhouse, you know, without having 5 years knowledge of coding. Mm-hmm. And we'd like people to put up their own ideas onto our forum, you know, with simple circuit diagrams, to encourage other people to do the same.
I think that's what's really nice about it. Then you can have a mixture of skills. You can be a hardware sort of enthusiast and be able to do your own bits to it, or you can be more the software side of things and just get the modules and do the mapping. So, or you can be not technical at all, really, and just sort of use it as it is.
Yeah, and there's lots of devices out there, and like things like motion detectors. Obviously, we all our devices measure temperature, which is always useful. But there's motion detectors, you know, door open detectors, and a whole range of things. I mentioned, you know, watering. You can get electrically operated valves for hose pipes and things like that. So over time, you know, we'll add those, and it may be that we actually develop some of those with our own slaves already built in, which means you can literally buy it off the shelf and then plug it in.
Yeah, that's really interesting. That. So what I'll do is I'll include a link for the campaign in the show notes so that listeners can take a look at it and have a look at themselves and get into that themselves.
That'd be great.
Yeah, and then we'll perhaps talk to you again in the future when everything's up and running, and we'll talk to you about some of the stuff that some of the community's done around it.
Okay, that'd be great.
Well, great, Ed. We really appreciate you joining us on the show today, and we'll speak to you in the future.
Yeah, and I'm sorry I screwed up last week by not accepting your Skype invitation.
No worries.
Warned about that.
Yeah. Skype won't do a group call without pre-accepting the. I don't know why. It'll do a normal call, but won't do a group call.
Oh, I see.
I didn't realise that until it was too late.
Yeah. Okay, that's great. Nice to talk to you guys.
Yeah, great. Thanks for that.
Okay, thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye. Interesting stuff.
Yes, yeah. I think this whole kind of Internet of Things and home automation, I think, is still so much in its infancy. So I think there's certainly a lot for companies and Kickstarter campaigns like this to kind of get in in the early stages.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and I think it's great, isn't it? With Kickstarter, it's made a big difference how a project can be launched like this without a huge amount of initial funding.
Yes, I mean, in the olden days, it was literally going around meeting companies, trying
Right, so let's try that again. Back on again. Right, so we better do the intro for that so I can edit that back in as well. So, so